Well, today's session is going to be about planning for the wedding ceremony. As a marriage commissioner, I'm constantly asked to meet with couples and help them with their planning. And so let's today focus on what goes into that preliminary early planning. So let's get to it. Now, obviously, this starts with the engagement. Some questions that people ask themselves is, should there be an engagement party? And the answer is, this is highly optional. It's up to the couple that's involved. The tradition is not practiced to the same degree that it was in the past, but that doesn't mean it can't happen currently. Some couples use this as a ruse to hold a surprise wedding ceremony. I've had a couple of these situations occur. They're quite fun. Everyone thinks it's just an engagement party, not realizing it's the real thing. So you can have a bit of fun with that. Should people bring gifts to the engagement party? If there are any given, they should be really token gifts, and couples, in my experience, openly express little expectation for gifts at this time. And really, it's just a time to start thinking and planning for the wedding at the engagement party. What about wedding invitations? Well, this is a very interesting topic. Traditionally, there was a formal process, a very expensive process, formal printing of invitations with RSVP cards and envelopes, and the envelopes are pre-stamped to encourage people to give an indication of their coming. It was really quite a ceremony. I personally experienced this for my own wedding. And really we live in a different altered reality today. The vast majority of wedding invitations are now done electronically, though I will say that there are now custom built websites that really produce a much higher quality standard invitation than just an ordinary email. And it's worthy of investigation. Again, it's not free, but it certainly is a lot less money than what these formally printed invitations cost today. I was aware of the cost because there was a time in which I was involved with a lithographer and would take orders for wedding invitations, but this is just something that's gone into the history books. So the wedding rehearsal, this is a good topic to talk about. It's really not necessary if the wedding is under 20 people in total. It can be very helpful if there's a large wedding party, especially if there's a large, like it's the bride, the groom, the best man, the maid of honor, and maybe 4 assistants over and above that. When it gets to that size, a wedding rehearsal is a good idea. One point to remember is that a rehearsal does not have to be held in the same venue where the wedding is being held. Sometimes your wedding venue is just not available. Well, a backyard will do just fine. I've done rehearsals in people's basements. I've done them in warehouses. It really doesn't matter where the rehearsal is. It can be done just as effectively and prepare the wedding just as well in any venue. It is most helpful for the person that's handling the music, however, to be there at the rehearsal so they can learn when the cues are. It's awkward if the music person doesn't know the cues. And sometimes as a marriage commissioner, I go down my way to seek out that person and really trying to review the cues with them well in advance. Of course, it's always helpful if the officiant attends the rehearsal. So there we are. Now, in terms of planning the wedding, I'm just going to set the stage. I'm going to be covering every phase of this process and probably a bit of a separate episode all by itself. But here are the elements that take place when there is a wedding solemnization ceremony. First, there's the processional. That's when everyone's coming in. And first there's the entry of the officiant, the entry of the groom's assistants, the entry of the groom, the entry of the bridal assistants, and then finally the entry of the bride with her escort. The bride comes down the aisle and is met by the groom. This is where the escort takes the hand of the bride and places it into the hand of the groom, and the escort has a seat. And the couple comes up, they face each other, and in pre-COVID times, I would have them hold their hands. Now that's very optional. There are a few opening words by the officiant. You can have an optional reading, you know, if there is a passage from the Bible that you feel that would be really helpful. That's encouraged. Then we proceed to the exchange of the wedding vows, the exchange of rings, which is optional. Not every culture exchanges rings. And then we can have the optional signing of the marriage register and the legal documents. That can be done beforehand. It's traditional. It makes for fun pictures, but it isn't obligatory in the wedding service. Then there's the pronouncement by the officiant, groom's expression of affection to the bride, usually kiss to the bride. Then the formal presentation of the couple to their guests by the officiant. And then a critical piece of music starts playing, and we have the recessional where the couple departs. And they're followed by the wedding party. So those are the basic elements that take place during a wedding service. One thing to think about is the music that goes on during the wedding service. I'll be talking about this in more detail. Really, the music is first choice of the couple. It should suit their personality. The overall theme, if I had to name one about music for a wedding, is that it's usually instrumental. That does not mean you have to use classic music. You don't have to do that. Having said that, a lot of couples will look at Canon in D by Pavisvel. They will look at an exit song, a recessional song that's really surprisingly effective is by Antonio Vivaldi. There's a piece of music he has written called The Four Seasons, and the quatrain, which is Spring, is just perfect as a recessional song, as is the Wedding March by Mendelssohn. And the other aspect that's interesting here is that a lot of contemporary music has been converted into an instrumental format, guitar, piano, and so a lot of choice takes can be used that way. For example, there's a fantastic piece, 1,000 Years, which is originally a song by Christine Para, that is done by a set of folks called the Piano Guys. It's lovely. It's just pure instrumental music. The recessional piece of music should be upbeat, perky, because it's you can use Mendelssohn's March, da 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 da, and then the couple goes off. But you can. I've seen recessionals based on Black Eyed Peas, and Here We Go Again. It's a very upbeat, perky song. So some thought should be put into the music that takes place during the wedding service. Now, there's a lot of confusion about who stands where and does what, and we have to talk in terms of stage direction here. So here would be me, the officiant. I'm facing the audience. And I have a left, I have a right while I'm facing the audience, and that's referred to as stage left, stage right. And of course, I like telling my couples, this is a wedding. The bride is always right, which is stage right. So this side is where the bride and her assistants will stand. And this side is where the groom and his assistants will stand. So for the guests coming in, if you're sitting people by family, the guests will, for the bride, from the bride side of the family will be on the left side, and the groom's family will be on the right side. Stage left, stage right. So it's important to make that distinction when we're talking about the organization of a wedding. So what's the order of entry? Well, first the officiant will come in, take position. Usually I like to nod to the music person, the song starts, and the groom's assistants comes in. And finally the best man. Then we're all in position. Stage left, everyone's standing. Then I'll nod to the music person. I'll fade down, new piece of music for the bridesmaids. And they will come in one by one, take position. And then the music will fade. And then the bride arrives at her escort with a specific selected song. Many brides pick Canon MD. The reason Canon MD is liked is because it's a piece of music. It's almost impossible to tell where it starts, where it ends. And so it can recycle on itself and no one notices. And you can fade it down at any point. So just something to think about. So who can escort the bride? That's usually one of the early questions that gets asked. And traditionally it is the father of the groom, father of the bride, that will escort the bride in, but we live in different times. So the bride can be escorted by a family member. I've seen weddings where the bride walks alone. I've seen where the bride has two escorting her, the mother and the father. And it's always a nice touch for when the groom is coming down the aisle for him to be escorted by his parents. It's always a lovely touch. So, but it's really up to the couple what they would like. So that's our second episode, and this is in a long series of pieces. I have a lot of material to cover. If you like this whole idea of learning about wedding etiquette, please press the like button. If you want to learn more and be up to date when I add more episodes to this series, please click the subscribe button. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Please feel free to hit the comments button. So this is episode 2 with so much more to come. Look forward to seeing you in our next session.